Hello, my friends. Welcome to the second part of Separate is Never Equal by Duncan Tonatiuh. Let's get into this. Read, grab your stuff.
On March 2nd, 1945, Mr. Marcus went to the courthouse and filed a lawsuit. The trial was held at a courthouse in Los Angeles. Sylvia and her family dressed in their best clothes and sat in the courtroom to listen. The hearing lasted 5 days. Each day, Mr. Marcus called to the stand parents from the different districts in Orange County and the superintendents from each district too. On the first day, Mr. Kent, the superintendent of the Garden Grove district, was questioned. He said that he sent children to the Mexican school to help them improve their English. That is a lie, thought Sylvia. Her English was as good as the English of any of the children at the Westminster School. "Do you give the children any tests?" asked Mr. Marcus. Mr. Kent claimed he did. "We do so by talking to them." "That is another lie!" Sylvia wanted to yell. No one had questioned her. They rejected her from the Westminster School without asking her a thing. "For what other reasons do you send children to the Mexican school?" asked Mr. Marcus. Sylvia and her family braced themselves to hear what Mr. Kent would say next. "For their social behavior. They need to learn cleanliness of mind, manner, and dress. They are not learning that at school. They have problems with lice, impetigo, and tuberculosis. They have generally dirty hands, face, neck, and ears." What? The Mendez family and others in the room stared at Mr. Kent in disbelief. What he was saying was not true. It was degrading. "How many of the 292 children at the Mexican school are inferior to whites in personal hygiene?" asked Mr. Marcus. Good question. "At least 75%, and in their scholastic ability, 75%. In what other respects are they inferior? In their economic outlook, in their clothing, in their ability to take part in the activities of the school." "Do you believe that white students are superior to Mexicans in the respects that you have mentioned?" "Yes." "And is that one of the reasons they are being segregated?" "Yes." Time and again, Mr. Mendez had asked, "Why can't my children attend the Westminster School?" Now he had his answer. On the second day, Mr. Marcus called to the stand a 14-year-old student from the Mexican school in El Modena. Her name was Carol Torres. She spoke perfect English. It was clear that she had not been sent to the Mexican school because she had problems speaking the language, as the defense lawyers claimed. Mr. and Mrs. Mendez were questioned on the third and fourth day, and so was I'll take that again. Mr. and Mrs. Mendez were questioned on the third and fourth day, and so was Mr. Harris, the superintendent of the Westminster School. Sylvia was not called to the stand, but she was ready to testify if they asked her. She tried looking her best every morning, and she practiced what she would answer. On the fifth and final day of the hearing, Mr. Marcus called to the stand two educational specialists to explain why it was bad to segregate children into different schools. Segregation tends to give an aura of inferiority. In order to have the people of the United States understand one another, it is necessary for them to live together, and the public school is the one mechanism where all the children of all people can go, said one of them. The judge nodded his head. He seemed to agree with this. Judge Paul McCormick took almost a year to give his decision, but when he did, he ruled in favor of the Mendez family. In his ruling, he said that public education must be open to all children by Unified School Association, regardless of lineage. This meant that everyone must be allowed to attend school, no matter what his or her race or her background. The Mendez victory made newspaper headlines. Sylvia's family was ecstatic, but they did not have much time to celebrate because the school board appealed the case. That is, it asked for another trial. Sylvia and her family had to go to the state court in San Francisco to argue the case again. In the new trial, the Mendez family received support from the League of United Latin American Citizens, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the Japanese American Citizens League, the American Jewish Congress, and other organizations. These groups sent letters with information relevant to the case and asked the judge to rule in favor of the Mendez family. Sylvia was amazed that people of different backgrounds and from different parts of the world who had never met her family were getting involved in the case and trying to help them. But her mother said, "When you fight for justice, others will follow." On April 15, 1947, the judges in the Court of Appeals in San Francisco ruled in favor of the Mendez family again. That June, Governor Earl Warren signed the law that said that all children in California were allowed to go to school together, regardless of race, ethnicity, or language. "So remember," said Sylvia's family, "we fought to make sure you could attend a good school and have equal opportunities." Sylvia thought long and hard about what her mother had said. The next day, she returned to the Westminster School. This time, she did not listen to any whispers. She ignored the children who pointed at her and called her names. Instead, she held her head high. Her parents had fought, not only for her and her brothers, but for all their classmates. Looking around, she saw that other children were smiling at her. By the end of that day, she had made a friend. And by the end of the school year, she had made many friends of different backgrounds. She knew that her family had fought for that too. The end. What a beautiful story. Separate is never equal. Well, thank you for spending your time reading this amazing book with me, my friends. Until the next time, who's amazing, you are amazing, and keep on reading.